Hi everyone, my name is Carrie and I'm actually going to be doing my contemporary health issue on mental health in adolescence. So let's go ahead and get started. The first question is, what is mental health? This is such a controversial issue and a lot of people don't really like to talk about it. It's so quick to say, oh, I have diabetes, but you're not going to say, oh, I'm bipolar or I suffer from anxiety. You're really not going to hear that as often as if somebody has physical ailments or anything like that. So, what is mental health? Mental health is the thinking or rationale dimension of our health. So, it's people who are mentally healthy will be able to create positive rationale to overcome many obstacles in life. And that's people who can do, who have a healthy mental health. But people who don't aren't going to be able to handle those stressors, and they'll get anxiety, they become fearful, and all those types of things. It's creating positive relationships with others. And psychologically healthy people are emotionally, socially, and spiritually resilient. So, like I said, when you're mentally healthy, you're able to build relationships in every aspect. But when you're not mentally healthy, you're not able to function in certain ways when certain things come into your life. Okay, let's see. So I specified in adolescence. So it states in 2016, the Child Mind Institute stated that 80% of chronic mental disorders start as children. And I can honestly say I have a brother who his onset was around 13, where he started struggling with depression and psychosis, and they weren't really sure what he had. So I can say that there's a lot of warning signs that are there as well that I think we have to pay attention to as parents. So, schools tend to overlook mental health in adolescence. I think that mostly because people are unaware of what mental health is and the warning signs and the preventative things that we can do. Honestly, it's just creating a positive environment for them, but especially teenagers, they're trying to figure out who they are. There's bullies, there's so many stressors on them when they're a teenager, going into high school, junior high, all those types of things of fitting in. That's usually when the onset happens. Depression, anxiety, all those things. So depression is one of the number one in adolescence. So 50% of mental health disorders have an onset before 14 and 75% before 24, affecting every aspect of their lives. So I can say that it does affect them. I mean, I can't say that I understand, but I've seen what my brother has gone through. They have diagnosed him as severe anxiety, and being around people, he would just become anxious, and um, he wouldn't want to talk to people. He would just kind of look around, and it's just, I will never understand what that feels like. So to say I understand, I don't, but I can see how it affects his life and how he's had to deal with it. Taking medication, trying to find the right medication. We do have ways to help, but at the same time, it's something that they have to live with for the rest of their lives, and they have to find coping mechanisms. And that's where we come in, parents, teachers, psychiatrists, psychologists, whatever it may be, being able to teach them at a young age how to cope with a mental illness if they have it will definitely help them for the rest of their lives. 50% of children 14 and older with a mental illness will drop out of school. So the dropout rates are so high, probably because their anxiety is so high. So being around other people, they don't want to be around that, so they drop out of school. That's the easiest alternative. So this is show 1 in 4 are affected by mental illness. 8.6 million adults have suicidal thoughts in America. Suicide is the third leading cause of death. 1 in 30 experience PTSD. Children with anxiety disorders least likely to receive treatment. And people of color have less access to care. So suicide, let's talk about that. There's so many children that you hear these days that are committing suicide because of depression. And again, we can't save everybody, but we can at least have the knowledge that we need to be able to notice the warning signs. If we at least have knowledge, I think that's the main thing, is people don't want to learn about mental disorders because they don't want it to happen to them. Just because you don't want something to happen doesn't mean it's not going to happen, so it's having that knowledge so that we can help the adolescents in dealing with these. So these are just some little diagrams here that I put, that 1 in 5 children ages 13 to 18 have or will have a serious mental illness. Okay, that's a lot to me. So 20% of youth ages live with a mental health condition, and 11% will have a mood disorder, 10% will have a behavior or conduct disorder, and 8% will have an anxiety disorder. Okay, so these are, to me, these are big numbers still. Okay, it's not 90%, but mental illness, I mean, just like physical illness, we have PE in schools to keep us physically fit. We need to make sure that we're doing stuff to prevent us with the mental illness as well, because look at these numbers. The numbers are still there, that we need to help them. The next one I put here, it's called The Game of Life for someone who has a mental health problem. And I thought this was really cool because for me, I have never dealt with a mental illness. Again, I have people in my family who have lived with it and how they struggle. And my brother went through drugs and went through alcohol and went to rehab because he didn't know how to deal with it. And we saw the signs, we did everything we could, but there's only so much you can do. And I believe that's where faith comes in. And you put your trust in God and know that He's going to be there. There's only so much that you can do for somebody if they're not willing to help themselves. So as you can see here, it starts school. Negative reactions most often come from friends. 70% does, and teachers 40%. Okay? 40% stop going to school or college. 30% are put off from joining groups or clubs. And the career fear of negative reactions stop 57% applying for jobs and 32% applying for further education. Ultimately, 1 in 4 will give up their hopes, dreams, and for some, their lives. How sad is that? That people who have a mental illness who don't get help, and a lot of them don't get help. And I think that's where we as the people need to be, especially depending where we are in our careers, need to be helping those who suffer from this. Okay, let's go to the next slide here. So the warning signs: excessive sleeping, loss of self-esteem, disinterest in previous hobbies, weight loss or decrease of appetite, personality changes or shifts, excess alcohol consumption, drug use, becoming very fearful and anxious or withdrawn. So these are the warning signs of somebody who suffers from a mental illness. Yes, there are normal teenage signs that kids go through during adolescence, but these are the ones that you really need to pay attention to. And if you see any of these, then you need to notify either a therapist to see what's going on, or the doctor, so they can refer and say, oh, this is normal or this isn't normal. It's better to ask questions than to not, because you don't want to ignore these and then your child commits suicide. And that's going to the most extreme factor. But it's happening. We need to open our eyes, and we need to make a change, and we need to make a difference in these kids' life by giving them knowledge and things that they can use that will help them to have a full life later in life in adulthood, and how to work with dealing with mental illness. Let's go here. Prevention. There is the Incredible Years is a program that engages and trains teachers, parents, and children how to decrease disruptive behavior. So this is one of the programs that they have right now in the schools, and they do have numerous ones. This is just the one that I chose. This program has shown a 15.5 increase of better behavior in children, which is great. So these are the types of programs that we need to incorporate into our school systems to help with them. The main thing to me is parents pay attention to the signs. You need to keep communication open with your children and understand that mental disorders are treatable, and do not be fearful of them. That it happens, and it's better for you to pay attention than to not, because again, It can have detrimental consequences if we don't pay attention. And if you just rather stay naive to it, then there's consequences. Do not be afraid to talk about mental health with your children. For those who understand, no explanation is needed. For those who do not understand, no explanation is possible. And that's true. I'm never going to be able to say I understand. Only somebody who suffers from a mental illness can truly say that they understand what they're living with. So this is the hot topic. This is actually a statistics that I found from 2016. In the annual report of 2016 reported 10% of kids aged 12 to 17 have had at least one depressive episode in the last 12 months. 64% untreated. 64% untreated. That is so much, okay? Why do you think the suicide rates are going up? It's because people are not getting help for what they need, because they're trying to do this and on their own and it's not working. 4% of individuals have thoughts of suicide in America. That's 9 million people in America who have suicidal tendencies. That's a lot of people if you put it that way. So if you want to look at this, you can. I will attach the PowerPoint as well. So impact on health and wellness. Having knowledge of mental health illnesses by teachers, parents, and children will equip them to better understand what they are going through if they are struggling with it. Again, what I've said through the whole thing, having knowledge. Dismissing or lack of observation is no longer an excuse. As mental health illnesses are a rise in our youth, we need to continue equipping ourselves and coming up with programs that are going to help our children. Having programs that implement and give parents the knowledge needed will equip them with the tools to try to prevent and get the children the help they need when they need, instead of overlooking it. Having a healthy mind is just as important as a healthy body. And I think a lot of people forget that. And to me, being physically fit, yes, it can consume you. You have to make sure you're doing it for the right reasons. But that's where your healthy mind comes in. You have to have a healthy mind, because ultimately your brain is sending off all these different things. If you don't have that, then what is the point? What is the point of why you're trying to get physically fit or any of those other things if your mind isn't in the right space? In the applications relations to public health, the strategies that are currently utilized is there are a lot of programs that are being targeted and implemented to younger age children for prevention of the issues of mental health. Just like I said, in the early years, that's one of the programs. It's to help the child succeed as he or she goes into adolescence and adulthood, as they learn coping and how to live with mental health illnesses. So again, educate parents, teachers, and children of this already controversial issue that is so common in our society today. Potential alternatives to consider are, to me, talk about mental health more, so that people are no longer afraid to talk about it. It is no longer a crutch on anyone's shoulder. The topic of mental health illness is not addressed enough in society or in schools. It needs to be incorporated more to give people knowledge so that preventative action can be taken. This is what, I'm using this one, this is Guterman's model. This is what public health is currently using in its policy development, assessment, and assurance. Okay, so this is just what I chose as what the public health system is currently using. So if you want to look that over, you can. My recommendations for growing mental health is continue to get more programs that bring awareness. Again, something I already spoke about. It's a crutch on everyone's sleeve that they don't want to talk about it. And if change is going to happen in our youth to decrease suicide, drug use, and alcohol consumption, we need to address the simple fact that mental health may be involved, and vocalizing it without shame. There is help for those who suffer from these illnesses and who can live a full life. So this is my last page. I kind of rushed through that end part because I can only because I can only do 15 minutes, so I am at my max. I hope you enjoyed it. Bye.